Hello there. I'm going to do a review for Predator. Um, this movie came out in 1987, and it's amongst the many batch of 1980s action movies, although I think this one actually is somewhat different than some of the others that came out in the 80s because this is about it's a different kind of movie where instead of a pure raw one-on-one, more of a Black Ops team that gets sent into to deal with a lost mission per se. There was a special operation already done. They lost contact with the special operation. A new special operation has been done in order to find out what happened to the first operation. Now, the whole movie revolves around the concept that some aliens have been coming to planet Earth to do so-called hunting every year, and when they do these hunts, they're looking for a certain set number of people that are considered more or less worthy of being a good hunt, a good trophy. And this special ops force, when they go in, of course, they think at first that they're just dealing with standard issue. It's going to Guatemala, I believe. I believe it's Guatemala, but more or less, it doesn't really matter the country. It's a Central American country, Guatemala, and they're supposed to be trying to figure out what happened to the special ops team. And of course, they think the local Guatemalan guerrilla forces had something to do with it. So of course, there's an early battle sequence that involves some Guatemala operatives. They gradually figure out, though, that something's not quite right about what happened or what took place, and they gradually realize that they are. It's kind of almost like Alien. It's Alien, and it's a combination of that and Commando, basically, I guess. But more or less, they gradually find out that they are in way over their heads, so to speak. It takes them a long time to figure out exactly what they're up against. There's actually not been much communication. There is some hint that the that the military has dealt with this problem before, although it's not very specific about it. There's a little bit of a hint of a problem child there. The fact that somebody does seem to know that these aliens exist and that they've been hunting, and that every once in a while a mission rubs up against this group. Not really expressly devolved, but they do come across and they do pick up an interesting passenger, a woman, so to speak, from the camp, and she turns out that, of course, she knows a little bit more than she initially they think that she knows. Although they gradually find out that she more or less knows that there's been something going on in these jungles for years. This is not some new problem that's been going on. It's just the way that the aliens come in. They don't try and draw attention to themselves. They try and keep it quiet, and they just know that over the years, the villagers in the area have known that over the years that when men go off into these jungles, not everybody comes back, and they just know that there's some weird stuff that goes on every year. That sometimes things happen and they can't quite explain exactly what's been going on. But indeed, this military group, they go in and they sort of start to realize that somebody is following them, somebody is watching them. The Predator, of course, is called the Predator. It's more or less an alien with camouflaging technology, and it's got an array of weapons on it that are more or less suited toward what might I guess off-world hunting. Although it's not entirely clear. I guess this is just cliche of the time, was to have them have this usual stuff. Um, I don't know. It's a fairly decent movie. It inspired one scene where, of course, the infamous minigun scene. and the firefight that happens. I don't think, as far as I know, that was actually a producer directive to get that in there because they wanted more action. So they said, hey, let's film this sequence. Let's have a scene where the predator gets lost in the jungle. They do manage to they I don't know. It's got a camouflaging technology, so the military at first, the soldiers don't realize that what they're up against. They're just kind of guessing. There was that infamous scene where they apparently hit nothing, and they gradually realize that this is really bad. They get picked off one after another until basically the end. And this whole movie is with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and of course Schwarzenegger is the star who ends up being the last person in the group. Well, I guess the woman and the guy are the last people in the group, but um, it's one of those films. It's got some good action set pieces. It's got some good scenes. Um, there's nothing spectacular about it. I think that's one of its worst problems. Is there's nothing truly spectacular about it. It's a standard issue. Soldiers go into the jungle and deal the fight. It's sort of like watching Apocalypse Now or Platoon even, and ends with a note of Alien. I guess that's sort of how it works, but it's more or less it's a fine little film. It, it there's amongst the many films of the '80s that this is sort of a response to. In the wake of, it's kind of weird how the '80s progressed because in the early '80s there wasn't many of these movies made. Instead, Arnold was more or less known for Conan the Barbarian, and then by the mid '80s he started moving into more standard action movies, and all the guys that are with him are more or less just once-offs. They didn't really do much after this. Arnold, of course, ended up having a fairly significant movie career, but yeah, the movie kind of ends on a spectacular set piece of Arnold versus the Predator, and of course, he sets up a big trap, and it almost does work. Although the Predator isn't exactly stupid, even though he's not entirely, doesn't is not a bit of a foreigner, so he doesn't exactly know what a trap looks like. Because I get the feeling these predators haven't been dealing with human traps very often, because I don't think the humans even know to create them. They don't think to make all the traps. Instead, the way that it's been working is the predators just pick off humans every year or so, and it doesn't really make the news at all because, of course, it's the jungles and lots of things happen in jungles. But Predator at the end ends up going one-on-one with Arnold, and it's a pretty interesting set piece. You do end up with quite an impressive fight. Predator finds a match for himself. He's impressed, and they get into an actual fisty fight, which of course the Predator wins because supposedly aliens in this world are apparently more powerful than humans, but that's that. Um, it runs into a bit of a problem though because of course at the tail end you get the Predator doesn't want to call it a total loss. This might be either a last-ditch effort, or this is just standard issue procedure for the predator species, is to they unload a nuclear device. Basically, their armband on their armband is a nuclear device, and so when they click on set up the timer, they get the time down and it detonates like a nuke. And basically, Arnold's character, finishes off the mission realizing he's lost everybody he knew, plus he's now realized that there is bigger things going on in these jungles sometimes than even anybody might actually realize. That the military might know about some stuff, but he's one of the few guys that actually realized what had just gone down. He wasn't prepared for that at all. He was just thinking this is standard issue, go in and fight, and by the end of the movie he's realizing I found out how big the story gets, He's got that look on his eyes. He barely survived this attack, and he's like, oh, I didn't realize this I didn't realize how big the operation was. I didn't realize that somebody might actually. He suddenly realized. He suddenly had his eyes momentarily open, realizing that uh, that yes, somebody actually does know about these creatures, and there's a bigger thing going on here. It's not just about military operatives. Sometimes aliens come down and they are advanced. But yeah, nonetheless, I like the movie a lot. I love watching it. It's a fun little movie. It's not perfect. It's not the best movie ever made. It's far from it. But in terms of anything involving the Predator movies, I don't think you get much better than this one. I don't think Predator 2 is any better. I think it's a bit of a bit of a downer, but yeah, this movie ends up being pretty good in the end. So yeah,